Welcome to Rock That Relationship, a podcast about all things relationship with Corey and Tracy.
Now let's get real and start creating relationships that rock.
Welcome, everyone, to Season 11 of Rock That Relationship. I cannot believe we are at Season 11 already, and this is such a cool topic. We are going to be discussing then and now, exploring past life relationships. Tracy, why don't you share with our listeners how we came up with the idea of then and now? It was a really cool kind of serendipitous moment. You remember?
Do I remember? We were driving in a car to LA or from LA, I don't remember, and we were just talking about past life relationships, and did I say that? And then it came on the radio, or it came up on my Spotify, now and then and now, and then something else said now and then something else said then and now, but I can't remember what was it. Was my Spotify playlist. It was a remembrance on my Facebook post.
Yes.
It was 3 different things.
Yeah, we were working on what would be our next series, and then you said then and now, and all of a sudden, boom, some kind of song came on or something now and then. And we're like, oh, that's cool. And then, and then all of a sudden your Facebook posted up and it said then and now and showed the 2 pictures, whatever. I was like, okay, we are meant to do this season. We are meant to be talking about this. We've been meaning to do this season for a long time. We've just had so many other things to talk about. And so, as this episode, as this whole series is about relationships, we thought, wouldn't it be cool to explore past life relationships? We know that some of the episodes we've had with some of our previous guests where we have talked about some of the more intuitive and past life and soul circle kinds of topics have really trended very high. So we thought this would be such a great season to do. So how are you feeling about it? Are you excited to talk about this?
Of course. I'm always excited to talk about pretty much anything.
Well, this topic in particular is pretty cool because I think, what's interesting is that we're not just talking about past life relationships in general, but we're going to be able to use our example of some of our past life connections with each other as a way to explore this topic more. And we have different episodes that we're going to be looking at different ways about going around and looking at past lives and how those impact the way that we show up in our lives today, how we resolve unresolved business, and how we move forward by learning the lessons we're supposed to learn from our greater wisdom. So with that said, let's get started. So tell me what your evolution has been on your kind of conceptual understanding of past lives, reincarnation, soul circles. I know that over the last few years, you've done a lot of kind of expansion work in this area. Tell us a little bit about your journey in kind of understanding and believing in past life connections.
Well, I've always believed in them. I believed in them as a kid. And so that was prior to any knowledge about Buddhism or reincarnation. So I grew up in Illinois in these cornfields, right? And I'm thinking, why am I here? Why am I not in Paris? Why am I not in some literary circle? I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in French language and literature, but I wasn't particularly even interested in French culture. It's like I just knew it, and I knew where I belonged, and I should be there. But oddly, as an adult, I had no interest in going there. But as a kid, I felt trapped. I was like, I'm in the wrong place. And I was also obsessed with Russia. And when I saw this one Marc Chagall painting of Russia, I was like, I know this place, right? And I later studied Russian as well, and I felt this super, super deep connection, but not in this life. I literally grew up in Illinois in a cornfield. And then I was obsessed with the Holocaust starting when I was like 11 years old. And this is 1980s, right? So there's only encyclopedias. I mean, we didn't have Netflix. We didn't have, this was this might have been like the beginning of Blockbuster, but where you had to go to a store to rent a movie on a a VHS tape, a beta tape, and take it back to your home. So it's not like my parents were renting Holocaust documentaries for me when I was 11, right? It just, it's like I knew it. It's like all this information came into my brain and I knew this stuff. And so I never had access. I wasn't like a professor's daughter or anything. Like we were literally Hicks out in the cornfield. And so I just had all of these knowings and these knowings that I wanted to be elsewhere in the world. And so, you go to college, you get on with your life. I became a police officer. Like, I always felt that, like, I would meet my soulmate one day. I would be with this person forever and into the next life. And so people that I dated thought I was really weird about that stuff. Like, people who aren't into that, they're atheists or they're not into reincarnation, find that stuff really bizarre. And so I was always kind of an outlier. And then I didn't really do much I never did anything until I met you. And then we started going to psychics, tarot card readers. You went to that past life regressionist. What else did we do?
Akashic
reader. And it's like as if everything kind of started to make more sense to me. And when the times when I was happiest, it would come to me while I was driving. And it was literally I felt like pieces of my brain were locking and unlocking, locking and unlocking, like puzzle pieces going in and out. Like, okay, I'm having these greater awarenesses. Oh, and Bethany, our astrologer, and I started doing coaching with her, and she was telling me, you're on this cusp of understanding these things. The psychic also told me that. And so I feel like I really I always had the knowings and I always had the foundation, but I didn't really start exploring until I became probably 50 years old-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So I've known you for 4 years. So for whatever reason, I think meeting you unlocked something, like the next level for my life.
Mm-hmm. Like a portal. I've always thought of it as like a portal.
Yeah.
It's very weird. Like, can't go back. I don't want to go back, right?
Mm-hmm.
To this understanding. Well,
yeah, I'd never want to go back. And I do think, so I have certain people in my life who mock this kind of stuff. They just think it's ridiculous. And I just listen to them and say, okay. And then I feel sad for them, actually, because they don't have that understanding. They don't have that. Mm-hmm. There's a greater thing happening here,
Right. Exactly. And that's how I feel too. It's like, it brings me such clarity and peace. Mm-hmm. to be in touch with this much deeper resonant soul side that I do wonder about people who don't tap into that or don't want to, or even
maybe they're just fine with that, but for me it seems sad. The mocking of us, I don't like, right? Because it's like, well, if you have the understanding that I have, and that you have a great intuition and I do as well, and sometimes I just know stuff, and that's called cognitive. It's
claircognizance.
Claircognizance. Mm-hmm. It's not like I see visions. I don't have dreams. I just know something. It's just suddenly it's in my head and I know it. And mm-hmm. I'm so confident about those knowings, so confident that it's like I know it on a totally different level than I know something here.
Yeah, like in the rational.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I have it too. The claircognizance is very strong for me. Mm-hmm. I grew up. I was always very, very a sensitive child. Not sensitive like I would cry when I hit my knee, but I was sensitive where I could pick up things, energy. I could pick up, particularly energy of people who have crossed over. I could see things, hear things, feel things. I was very empathic as a child, so much to the point that it actually frightened me. I was very scared. I didn't know at 8 years old what I'm supposed to do with these messages that I'm getting, these feelings that I'm getting. It was very, very overwhelming, and people would make fun of me and be like, oh, Corey sees ghosts. And I'm like, that's not it's so much more complex than that. I'm in touch with some kind of spiritual realm somewhere. And if there are people who have passed over that are trying to communicate with me, they know that I'm some kind of a portal or a pipeline. And very young, I didn't know what to do with that. And it was incredibly terrifying. And so I'd have a hard time even walking into places, particularly old homes or pawn shops, places where there were historic buildings where there might have been a lot of energetic activity in there. I could feel the other side. I could feel this this place that wasn't the here and now. And so with that, it became very heavy to carry all of that empathic weight of others, and to be able to be in touch with these like spaces and planes of existence that I wasn't familiar with. So I just shut it down. I mean, I just literally forced it. Like every time I get a feeling, I would just like almost just resist it inside. I don't even know how I went about doing it, but I did. And so for many, 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 many years, I shut this down. Because I didn't want to experience it. But it started back up in college again when I started having premonition dreams. And I would see things before they happened. And it was almost like someone was giving me information, like a playbook of something. And so I predicted plane crashes. I predicted an active shooting on my own campus. Those kinds of things. I predicted a suicide, but I didn't know that's what it was until afterwards. And so like I knew that I was getting messages from somewhere. And so at that point I wasn't as scared of it because I was older and seemed to be giving me information that was useful. But I've always sort of been in touch with that, but I've kept it again at arm's length for fear that it would just take over and be terrifying, and that I'd get some type of energetically hijacked or something, or I'd get a message I didn't know what to do with. So I really did keep it at bay for a long time until you and I became friends and we started exploring some of this stuff. And one of the things I started into was tarot cards right away, and then saw a psychic, and then, Akashic reader, been to palm readers, we've done it.
Astrologer.
Yeah, the astrologer. You even had that thing. Remember that smoke reading? That was kind of weird.
Yeah, that was dumb.
I don't know that it worked.
I blow that one off. But it wasn't about me. It turned out to be about the person I was dating, actually. Everything applied to her.
It was pretty spot on at the time. Yeah. And so, I mean, I started exploring it and wanting to build up my intuition. And then I even got an intuition coach a couple of years ago to help me with that, and realized that some of the things that were happening, I was getting a lot of claircognizance where I would just know and have feelings. I was getting a little bit of clairvoyance where I was seeing signs and symbols. And so I definitely have those in the intuitive dreams. But I have a very strong knowing, almost like an empathic reaction to certain things. So now what I'm doing is leaning more into that, because I really do believe that a lot of this stuff comes from our connection to our soul world, right? Where, like, we have our soul mates, our soul circles of people who are giving us messages, or we've been there before. Like I get ridiculous deja vu. I've been there before. And so now I'm just learning to trust all the feels, trust them all, because every single time I have gone against those messages that I'm getting, it's somehow not turned out well. And so, So here I am, here we are, and in the process of going and doing all this stuff, you and I have met with, a number of different people that are intuitives in their own modalities, and have told us that we have had various past life relationships with each other. We've been, so some really cool stuff around that. So I know we're going to get into it this season with all of those specifics about what those connections are, but maybe
why don't we just list them off, and we don't need to talk about the specifics.
Let's do it. Let's list them off. Okay.
Like we were married.
At
the turn of the century. We were both women.
In France, connection to
France. Yeah.
And
that's weird because we both had that connection, but we'll talk about that more deeply elsewhere.
We had that. We had, there was something that was a connection. We'll talk about this around, a premonition that I had during a Reiki session about going to Machu Picchu. And it ended up that you and I ended up connecting and planned to go to Machu Picchu. I didn't end up going because my mother passed away at that time, and you went by yourself. But you went by yourself and ended up connecting with someone who really needed you to connect with them. You would not have connected with them otherwise if I was there, and possibly have saved her life.
Yes, it's possible. She's still alive today. But she was a younger person and suicidal, and we really became friends. And I mean, she lives in England, but, it's very interesting because had you been there, I would not have struck up that conversation because you and I would have been busy doing stuff.
Right. And you ended up rooming with her. She took my spot in the room.
Yeah.
But that was all, like, at the time I had the premonition, I was supposed to go to Machu Picchu, but I wasn't. You were supposed to go to Machu Picchu, and you wouldn't have necessarily gone at that time had I not. So we had that. And so we had I don't know what that relationship in the past was, but somehow we must have had some kind of a past pact in order to get you there. So that was another one. What's another one you want to share?
That you were my mother and I was your son, and I was shot right in front of you in Germany in World War II.
And
that would explain my obsession with the Holocaust.
Exactly. And my obsession with parenting you.
I know, my God. Sometimes I'm like, back off, lady.
I know.
But that's all past life stuff. But, you know, it is interesting because there is present life stuff because you're so much more competent than I am. And I'm like a piece of flotsam just going along down the river. You know what I mean? Like, it's like hard. It's hard. I don't know. It's a very interesting relationship because we're both Virgos and yet we're polar opposite Virgos, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But I do feel that not only that child-parent dynamic comes through at times, the Holocaust thing comes through constantly for me. Constantly. I mean, that's been, I used to say when I was an adult, like there's 8 tracks in my mind, like train tracks going at all times. So while I'm talking to you, I'm literally thinking about 7 other things, and that one of those tracks is always the Holocaust. And interestingly, since we have had I believe we've met the person who killed me, which, you know, some people will say that sounds insane, right? But it changed that person's life when I talked to her about it.
Mm-hmm. And freed you.
It freed me and it freed her, and it has reduced my, like, the constant, you know, obsession with it.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get into an entire episode about that, which is really cool. Okay, so here's another past life thing that we've had. In my past life regression, you came up as a spirit guide for me. Mm-hmm. And so while I may have parented you in a past life, you serve as my spirit guide, giving me guidance, which makes sense as to why we both provide support and guidance to each other. It's just I may be drawing from my parent-child relationship way of doing it, and you may be drawing from your spirit guide.
I know it's interesting because you do listen to me at times, and then other times you like get annoyed with my advice, or you feel like I'm overstepping or something. I don't know what it is.
Right.
You did it yesterday. You did it today. You're like, yeah, okay. Like when you've decided that either you don't want to hear what I have to say or what I'm saying is wrong in your mind. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, sometimes I do it because you're like the 9th person who said it to me, and I just feel like I think that's happening. Like that happens with lots of people. But yeah, sometimes I'm just like, I just don't want to go down that road.
Well, that could be, but it is interesting because, you know, there's a lot that I know about you that I just know. Like I know what's in your mind. I've known what's in your mind before you told me most of the time. And it's not like, oh, we're sitting there talking about it, because I've known things that have happened before you called me to tell me. Mm-hmm. Not that I knew concretely what happened, but I felt the energy shift, or I felt like something.
Yeah.
And it's weird because, you know, again, we talk about this all the time, but when we met, people were like, why aren't you dating Corey? Because you're hiking all the time. But we don't have that relationship in this lifetime. It's not like that. No,
it's not. It's different. And I try to explain sometimes, like, people don't quite understand our friendship. And I'm like, well, first of all, you don't have to understand it. But second of all.
Who asked? Do people ask about it?
Well, they're just like, you talk like 17 times a day. And I'm like, so.
I mean, well, it's interesting because when I've dated 4 people since you and I have met. And I currently am with the love of my life and soulmate. And like that, we can talk about, that only came about after I truly came to happiness within myself. But I tell that person up front, like, I talk to this person all the time. I talk to Corey all the time.
Yeah. And she has no issue with it. And my past partner also had no issue with it. It was just like, of course, the two of you talk. Like every time, like,
people who know us know we're not into each other.
Well, exactly. And, it's like, I have to tie my shoe. It's like, Tracy, guess what? I'm tying my shoe. And then 10 minutes later, you call me and you're like, I ate an English muffin. I mean, I don't know why, but that is just what we do.
We do not do that. We call and you say, what are you doing? And I say, I'm eating English muffin. And you call because you have something to tell me.
Well,
but that's the thing.
That is true. That is true.
We're always talking about things. We're processing. And that is something that other people who hear it have to come to understand. And we've talked about this on so many podcasts about the external processing, the need to externally process stuff. And there are people who perceive that as ruminating. So there's a difference between ruminating and externally processing, right?
Uh-huh.
And what you and I do together is externally processing. We're not wallowing in the pity party. We're not sitting there saying, oh, I'm so sad, feel sorry for me. But we do talk about our emotions. But each time that we talk, I feel like we're understanding a bit more about whatever situation it was that happened. And so rather than living with bitterness, resentment, or whatever, it's easier for us to let go of that stuff. Like I had a friend the other day say, I can't believe that you're getting, in this relationship, but this very serious relationship, going to get married, all this stuff, because I would have thought that you would be too cynical for that at this point, having been through stuff and also being a divorce attorney. And I said, well, I really work through everything. Even if I get hurt at the time or feel hurt, the process that you help me to do is to go through all of this stuff. So therefore, there's not lingering sadness or anger. And in my spiritual journey, I now see, and this is very Buddhist, everybody is on their own path and they're going to act, the way that they act should not reflect on me. Even if it hurts me, even if it seems like I'm being rejected or I'm being something, well, that's not on me. That's on them.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, these are really great examples of, us being able to give each other guidance and support and pulling from some of that wisdom of the past, because sometimes I know that we ask each other the right questions too. Like, because there's a knowing, like knowing what needs to be said or knowing what needs to be asked that comes from like a different place of just like a buddy being like, all right, well, how you feeling about that? It's like, there's like a different kind of a way to be able to see a situation and help each other kind of work through some things. And there's times when we don't agree. There's times when we, definitely see things differently. And, and then one of us just has to back off and say, wait, we always say this, you're going to do what you're going to do.
But same, I said the same to you.
Yep, exactly. So, but it helps though to talk about it, even though that's still the outcome no matter what, right? It's just that guidance. Another past, I don't even know what kind of a past life, but some pact we made somewhere along the line. Bethany told us, Bethany, our astrologer, said that you and I have some kind of entrepreneurial connection in this life. She told us that a long time ago, actually, right either at the beginning of the podcast or we were thinking about doing the podcast. She said you two are going to just go and do some kind of project or initiative, and it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. And she said, it stems potentially from like maybe a pact that we had made sometime in our soul lives where we just know that we're supposed to show up, find each other, and then do whatever this work is. So that's pretty cool.
Yes, totally. Let's get it off the ground. The problem is you're like the engine. I'm the entertainment. I'm not good at a lot of stuff. That has to be frustrating for you. And maybe it's in this lifetime only, but like, there's a lot of skills I just don't have. And I do find it interesting, like, am I ADHD in every life that I'm in? Or is this like an organic brain thing that I have in this lifetime? Do I present in the same way?
Right.
Because I do believe that I know who we were, at the turn of the century in France, and I've read about those people's personalities, and our personalities align perfectly.
I mean, you would think, right, if we have some characteristics and traits that are embedded so much in us that we would bring that with us from life to life.
Do we? I mean, that's the interesting thing. I feel like as we go further along this path, like recently the psychic said that I have, since the last time I talked to her, I've cleared a big block. I do know what that block is. It relates to my family of origin, to my parents. And I know that I cleared that block through dating relationships that were troubling to other people to watch, but were super, super helpful to me. And now I feel that I really feel like I'm on a totally new path, or like I'm really going forward on the path that I want to be on for the rest of my life. And she said that. She said, you're about to embark on a higher level spiritual stuff. And I think that, changing my job, doing the things that I'm going to be doing will help me to get there,
Mm-hmm.
And I called you last night, frustrated and upset at being at a job that I love. So I'm working at a pickleball club. I love the pickleball club, but it's taking away energy from the things that are now most important to me, which is not only my relationship, but I want to do this work with you, and I need that time and energy. So I have to leave that job. I'm going to, right now I'm helping them out because it's summertime, but like that was my frustration last night. And my partner also felt it because she's like, you're cranky. And I was like, am I? And then I was like, I said, I feel frustrated. I feel like I'm putting energy into someone else's dream, right? My boss's dream to have the club. I love my boss. He's a great guy, but that's not my dream. And when I took the job, I thought it'd be just fun, but it's really not for me now because I can't keep track of the rules. I don't want to do the cleaning. I just want to go there and say hi to everybody and have a little fun. And so that's not the job. So I need to leave. And, this kind of goes back to our last season on stuck. So right now I feel stuck. It's really limited time. It's not like I'm committing a ton of time to them, but I do feel like in my life now, in my next 50 years, every moment is valuable to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to waste more time.
Well, and again, one of the things about you that I've known is that whether it's intuitive or whether it's rational, you often have very, very strong clarity about things, but your action doesn't always follow. Mm-hmm. And so like you're very clear about what you wanted in your legal world, in your profession. Mm-hmm. You were very clear, but it's taken time for you to get there. You're clear that you want to leave the pickleball club. So I'm curious as to how long it will take for you to actually make action on that. Because your clarity is, like I said, it's intuitive, rational, probably a combination of both, is very, very strong.
Well, I came out last night as I just wanted to leave. And my coworker, she's in the same position. She's like, go. Because there were two of them closing and I was leaving an hour early. But I ended up leaving an hour earlier than I was scheduled to leave because I was over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was taking away, it was using energy that I want to put somewhere else. And I think that's really important is once you get onto a certain path, once you decide you're doing something in your life, your energy has to go that way. And exactly. I really don't want to waste it. And I feel like, yes, the relationship coaching, the divorce coaching, which is helping people through divorce, which is what I'm doing at my job now as well. That's where I want to put my energy, Like I talked to a woman yesterday who was contemplating divorce. And when I pointed out all the realities of that, she was like, whoa, I really don't have it that bad where I am right now. And her life would be worse at this point, And I can help people that way.
Well, that's like you have like this calling and your energy is not aligning with it. And, and even Bethany said you're going to be doing more entrepreneurial initiatives. So some of those are going to be with me, but some of those are going to be with you. Some of those are just going to be the direction that you're going to go. And you're feeling resistance because you're creating resistance.
Well, I created, taking that job served me at the time, right?
Exactly.
I was single. I was like working from home and I was like, I got to get myself out, but I could easily just be a member. But I thought, it'd be fun to be part of a community. But then when it comes down to the nitty gritty and working till 10 p.m. as a person over 50, I can't do it.
No. And calling me while you're cleaning toilets and stuff. I was like, oh gosh.
No, I know. Well, and that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with doing that work, but not when I'm doing this other work during the day. And when I'm doing that at 10 o'clock at night, that is not where I want my energy to be used.
No, I get it. Well, you and I have some kind of past life pact to keep moving towards this entrepreneurship. And we talk about it a lot and I've tried to back off and trying to tell you like, stop making decisions that go against, writing your books and doing the podcast and all of these things. And, your response to me is like, I'm going to do it. And so, finally today for the first time, I was just like, it's okay if you don't.
Yeah, that's the first time you said that.
Yeah. And I wasn't using like reverse psychology. I'm just like, I'm letting you off the hook for our pact that we made.
Right.
That, you feel maybe compelled to stay in some kind of entrepreneurial initiative with me. If that's not where you want your energy, and you've been telling yourself that's where you want your energy, but you're not
No, but
acting
it
on it.
is, I do. And you're right. My actions have not been aligned with my desires. So that's not actually true. That is what I want. And I do want to do the books, and I do want to do the stuff that all of the things we're doing go along with what I'm doing for my real work. I
Mm-hmm.
have to stop getting distracted by this dumb little side stuff that I allow into my life. Same
Mm-hmm.
as relationship stuff. I finally feel in alignment with someone for the first time in my life, complete alignment. I have
Mm-hmm.
never had that before, even though I've had great, I've been very fortunate, but I've never ever felt like completely aligned with another person. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that is where I'm going to be. And that takes a huge thing off of like, I don't have to search. I don't need to look for somebody else. I don't need to find something else. So that part of my life is now set. And now I want to set the work part.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to play pickleball as an enjoyable thing. I don't want to be worrying about how many guest memberships people can use. I mean, that's the thing. I don't care. And that's when I become done. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with litigating. I don't want to do it anymore. And I've got
Mm-hmm.
a few cases left. And at this point, I just want to give them to somebody else. I really do not care about the nitty gritty.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care. Don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Only want to do consultations and counsel and coaching. And that is it.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, you got a lot of great clarity. Um, all right. Well, if we were to look at this, we've identified several different times in which we're very clear about the roles of the past life relationships. We've
Mm-hmm.
also had times in which we don't necessarily know what those relationships were, or if it was a past life thing or something we did in kind of our soul space before we even, kind of took to lives, where we've made some pacts with each other to do some initiatives together to kind of be each other's guides in some way. I've been told at one point that we're jumpers, and we jump from one life to the next, and maybe like some kind of a pact where we agree to just kind of keep each other company on the way. I don't know, but there's a lot to unpack, and I think this season is going to let us really do that. But I do want to highlight one thing, though, that isn't really necessarily related to specific past life relationship, but you and I somehow also have a tendency to learn massive life lessons at the same time. Like we're living parallel self-learning journeys. And this has happened. We identified this a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it continues to happen where if one of us is going through an experience, the other one is going through not even something that's a similar experience, but has the same exact lesson. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're both going through something where we identify we need to individually each create emotional boundaries in whatever situations we're facing. And again, totally unrelated to each other, but we're happening at the same time, so that when we're processing, we're both having these aha moments. And then as soon as we get out of that, time goes on, and then boom, we're both like ready for the next lesson. And it's like we're
Mm-hmm.
experiencing these lessons in parallel. What are your thoughts on that unfolding for us?
Well, I think if we were jumpers and we agreed to be bouncing around or whatever it is we're doing, like it is interesting that, I mean, we didn't meet until you were like 47 and I was 50 or something like that. But like everything that we've learned, it is weird. It's maybe not weird because we're supposed to, but it's not necessarily exactly at the same time, but it's around the same time. And it's very helpful to us both, I think, because we end up at the same place almost
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously, even though sometimes I've been in a relationship and you've been single, or I've been single and you're in a relationship. It's like other people come into our lives where we learn these lessons through that like situation with other people too. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not just, relationships, and it is all very interesting.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I noticed it the most, and then I was able to reflect back and see it happen previous to this, but the one that stood out to me the most was when I was really struggling with having a tenant that couldn't pay the rent on time. Mm-hmm. And I was having a real response to try to make sure that, I didn't want to leave her and her kids like out on the street. And but I was also trying to
her children were adults, by the way.
Well, yeah, one was in high school and one was children, like 21. Yeah. But yeah, so I didn't really want to like do that. But I was getting caught up in the emotional boundaryless experience that I was having, where I was like allowing her situation to impact like literally my feelings, right? Not just what I was doing in terms of collecting rent. And it became incredibly overwhelming for me that I was carrying this burden of her emotional situation. And I said, we were talking, and it was at the same time you were dealing with something, and I don't even recall what it was, but something where you were really struggling to create some emotional boundaries around something as well. And you had been talking to me about it, and then we made the connection that we were both dealing with the same issue in very different contexts.
I know what it was. It was that dating, that situationship.
Okay, that's what I thought it was.
That was what it was. And both serious boundaries needed to be set in both of those situations. And both of those people, while sympathetic in some ways, were taking advantage of both of us, because your lady had she was doing all kinds of other things. So she had the money to pay. And that was the thing, is like, do you continue to let someone take advantage of you? Because, like if you were to do eviction or whatever, you would look evil. But the reality is, if you look at the full situation, that lady had plenty of money. She'd been employed for years. She lived in your house for years, and she had been paying. And then suddenly she stopped, and her behavior became very bizarre and erratic. And why were you the one to suffer for that? And that's exactly what happened in the situationship I was in. Yes, super sympathetic person, but acting so mean and awful, and
and taking advantage of you and your support,
total advantage of me
and your house, and what you're willing to do
to come into my house and then tell me to not tell anybody that she's at my house, and all kinds of bizarre rules where I was like, F off, like, you have no right to do this. But I still continued to engage, and you still continued to try to let this lady stay longer. And at the end, it was like, no, these people have to go. They're like literally taking advantage of us and turning around and like doing, like, being kind or nice to other people, or, using their money in other ways. And we're the ones suffering the brunt of it.
Yep. And I remember this because, they both seemed like such different situations. And then when we both identified that we were being taken advantage of, and that we needed to do a better job of creating both physical and emotional boundaries, it was like, aha, like it was more profound to learn it right around the same time, because we just could help each other through it. And then it was like, okay, this is what I need to do. It's very clear. But we've had this so many times with like ability to trust others, finding inner peace. And a lot of times, we don't like say, okay, I'm going to be working on this particular thing, finding inner peace. Tracy, are you going to work on that too? No, we just happen to go through some type of life experience, that's, again, vastly different from each other, but we're dealing with and grappling with the same issue at right around the same time. And so part of me thinks that this is tied to, like you said, being jumpers, where we have some kind of a pact that we're going to, go through some of our learning at the same time so we can be there. And then that's why we process so much in this life, is to work through these things together, the lessons learned. Fascinating stuff.
Right. Very fascinating.
Fascinating. Well, I'm excited about this whole season.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Before you move on, is like, did we have to learn that lesson? Like, okay, if we agreed in another lifetime to come here and do this stuff, why did it take so long to like get here? And did we have to go through a bunch of other stuff to get here? I feel like that in relationship too, in an intimate relationship, like, I wish that I hadn't gone through all those other things in a way. But then if I hadn't, maybe I wouldn't be situated for what I want now.
Right. Like, and everything happens for a reason. You took something from it. You're better now. Whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I don't know. Part of it is, I think that it's enlightenment, that that once we open ourselves up fully to being able to embrace these kinds of messages, these kinds of feelings, these kinds of experiences, these kinds of pings of intuition, that a lot of us are trained, not necessarily formally, but informally trained to ignore or laugh off or whatever, it becomes really hard to figure out what we're supposed to learn along the way. But I think the earlier that you learn that, the more you can resolve some of these things. Because if I would have been open with my intuition and my own kind of portal to my past life wisdom earlier on in life, when I shut it down instead, could I have worked through some of this stuff earlier? Maybe. I think.
Or could you have had your own show on TV where you talked to the dead? And you were a celebrity, working for celebrities and doing that, like that cute guy who does it.
Right.
I forget his name, but he's super cute. That little guy who talks to dead people.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched that?
I have watched it, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly who you're talking about.
He's adorable. I can't remember his name.
He's young. He's a real young guy. I can't remember his name, but didn't he talked to Alan Thicke right before he died?
I don't know who Alan Thicke is, but
he's the dad on Growing Pains.
No.
And he talked to him and sort of like was telling him like he needs to watch his health, something really, really strong and profound. And he died shortly thereafter from the same thing. But yeah, so I mean, I could have had that show. I could have some resolution. I feel like now that I'm open to all this stuff, I'm letting myself learn these lessons in a way that I can make meaning from them. Because before they were just smacking me in the face.
Right.
And like, well, that was a hard lesson to learn.
But now that we look at those lessons, that's what I'm saying with our partnership, we can actually look at all that stuff and make sense of it rather than being tormented by it. I mean, neither of us are tormented by these things. And, you know, here's another parallel lesson. Like I have just achieved seriously true, like I am really happy, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like the only thing that could mess that up would be death, but that scares me, of course. But you are now feeling a lightness that we discussed earlier today that you haven't felt in a long time. And you're feeling what I'm feeling. So it took you like a month after me or 2 months. But again, it's like at the same time. Like your feeling that you're describing is the feeling that I have now.
Right. Like a sense of working towards like all of a sudden peace. I felt like a release just even in the last few days of just like peace. And that's what I wanted. I've been manifesting that, and you have peace. And so that,
I have that peace and happiness, and you now have it too. And you're like a month or two behind me. That's it. And you know, here's what nerds we are. I would like everyone to know, like we went to LA to go to West Hollywood Pride. And not only did you focus on some fennel seeds ridiculousness at a booth, like I was, of course, talking to my girlfriend every 5 minutes. And then you had stuff that you had to work through. And so our trip turned into a real emotional, like, I think breakthrough for you about a lot of stuff. And if we hadn't had that time there and in the car and all that, and, you know, like, I think that no matter what, I don't know, I feel like whatever happened when we met at that pool party, like, it was so crucial for both of us. I really feel like I'm going to be 55 in August. It's now June. I feel like my life is just beginning because the way that I look at the world and the way that I see things now is so different from my first 50 years. And for me, I've been able to really get away from, transcend all of that trauma, all of the anger, all of these things that people knew me as before. They're not that way anymore. I'm not that way because of my understanding of where we are in this world. And also, you know, given all of the political turmoil and horrible things that are happening right now, in the past, I'd have been way more I would have been a mess. I would have been angry every second. And now I'm like, I have so little control. And I know that, you know, that it actually gives me a greater sense of peace.
Yeah, exactly. And you can let go of the anger. You can forgive. You can I mean, all of that stuff just hurts us inside. So
Mm-hmm.
it's finding peace I think is really the ultimate space. Like that's where I want to be. And, we've talked about what peace looks like. We even talked about it this morning is, you
Right.
have more kind of that peace. I mean, I've got peace in a lot of things, but you have more of that peace in sort of your relationship place, and you're working towards peace or seeking peace more in your professional space. And for me, it's the reverse. I find a lot of peace and ease in my professional space, but in my personal space, it's not always 100%, but I'm working towards it and leaning towards it and trying to take moments to do it. And so that's the other part of it too, right? Is we can go through this state together and help each other.
Right. Right. Well, we're lucky we have each other.
I know. Good thing for that weird pool party.
Yeah, I know. See? We mocked that pool party mercilessly. Mercilessly.
Yes.
And then look, it was probably the greatest thing. And that's, I think, the lesson in all of this to everybody is like, you don't know what's going to come out of a pile of poo or a horrible pool party that you feel just like, why am I here? The entire pool party. I was like, why am I at this place? God, and why am I here? Right. And there I met you. I mean, how weird is that?
I know. And our lives have been profoundly impacted. We were
profoundly. And I have you. Well, yeah. And I have you to thank, and my girlfriend thanks you for keeping me here. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like if I wasn't here, we wouldn't have met and I wouldn't have what I have now. And you kept me here in this place against many, many times I wanted to leave and or burn my house down and run away. You know what I mean?
I knew you needed to be here. I don't know if I knew why, but I've been very adamant with you about not leaving.
Well, I thank you forever from the bottom of my heart because I've experienced something now that I didn't know that I could ever have and that I've always been looking for. And I kind of like just resigned myself to, no, that's not going to happen. I'm just going to be happy single. And I was really happy single, but now I'm really, really happy in a love situation that that would have only happened being here, So I do thank you for that. I really appreciate that. So does she.
Well, good. I'm glad you're in the right place. You're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yep.
So now we got to think about what our future pact is going to be, right?
Yeah.
Like our pact, so we can move on to the next, when we move on to the next slides, and we'll figure out what
I know. Well, I don't know that I want to come back to this place, but
yeah, well, maybe
it's definitely going to involve. We've now expanded that circle, and we can talk about that in another episode. But circles,
Yep, absolutely.
We have a new person in our circle now that I do believe that we knew her before.
Yeah,
but that's for the future talks.
That's for the future. Those are good. That make people stick with our season and say, I can't wait to hear the next one. So
don't tell people that. That's like waiting on a cliffhanger.
It is. We want a cliffhanger. Okay. All right. Well, Tracy.
Always the professor. You need to tell people what we're doing. Don't tell people. Leave a mystery.
It's the learning outcomes. I want to make sure everybody knows.
I know. That's hilarious. The learning outcomes. Now, children, make sure that you take account of this. This is the lesson from this episode.
Exactly. All right. Well, Tracy, it was fun to talk through this stuff. This is so cool, and I'm really glad we got to share this with our listeners.
Me too.
All right, everybody. So until our next episode, go out there and rock those relationships. If you liked what you heard, check out our show notes for resources from today's episode. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram under Rock That Relationship, and go to our website at rockthatrelationship.com for updated episodes and more great information.
Thanks for listening. Now go rock those relationships.